Hello, it's Sandy with Sandy Cogdell Designs, and today I have a card that I made with Trinity Stamps' new super die set. I just love this die. It is so cute because it makes a cutout card, or you can just use the dies to make a regular standard A2 card. Anyway, it also gives you the option of doing either a soup can or a pill bottle, and I decided to go with the pill bottle today. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdell or on my blog www.sandycogdelldesigns.com. Let's get started. To start this card, I'm going to use a piece of white cardstock and a little bit of tumbled glass distressed oxide ink, and I'm going to use a cloud stencil to lay in some clouds for the background. Generally my work surface is not that messy, but I had just inked my stamp pad, and so it was really juicy, and I needed to get a lot of that ink off my brush before I attempted to lay in those clouds. Once I get done doing that, I'm going to water down some tumbled glass ink, and then I'm just going to spatter that over my sky just to give it a little bit more extra dimension and interest. Using my Misty, I'm going to stamp my Wildflower Garden stamp set along with a couple of the butterflies from that stamp. I like to use Express It blending card. That just seems to work best for my coloring. I find that it doesn't do a lot of bleeding outside the lines, but it does blend nicely. I am going to start with the violets in Copic markers, and the colors I'm using are V01, V12, and V15. The next colors that I'm using are for the little eucalyptus sprigs and the stems of the other flowers, well, stems and leaves. And the colors I'm using for that are YG61 and G43. That would be for the eucalyptus. And then for the other stems and leaves, I've used G12, YG45, and YG67. For the yellow of the sunflower, I am using Y11, Y15, and Y17. For the daylilies and that other little floofy flower over to the left, I used YR21, YR18, and YR15. And then for the rose and the other little flowers over off on the left-hand side, I've used R91, R83, and RV34. I'm not sure if those ones on the left were orchids or daffodils or maybe columbines, but I decided it didn't really matter. I just wanted to balance out the colors of my little flower garden. I'll also color the little butterflies with the same orange combination that I used on the daylilies. And then for the center of my sunflower, I'm going to use E42, E23, and E57. That is the only brown that I am using on all of this coloring, and I think it really helps make that sunflower stand out a little bit. Next, I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut out my little flower garden and my little butterflies. I'll just go ahead and tape those down with a little bit of temporary tape and run that through my die cutting machine. Next, I want to stamp my sentiment on my little cloudy piece that's actually the background of my pill bottle. So I'm going to place that in my Misty, and I'm going to use the Healing Wishes stamp set to get that placed in. I do find that I need to double stamp that a couple times because my stamp is new. I want to make sure that my little Wildflower Garden has a nice rounded edge, just like the bottle shape. So I'm going to place that on my bottle background and then lay my die on top of that to make sure I get that centered and a nice rounded cut and that everything looks balanced. Once I get that placed where I want it, I'll go ahead and use some removable tape or temporary tape, get that adhered down, and then run it through my die cut machine. Now that I've got that cut, I'll go ahead and use some liquid glue to adhere it to the bottle background along with the little butterflies. I personally am a liquid glue girl. I am not crazy about the adhesive tape. I think it works well for certain things, but I just like the security of knowing that once I've got that piece glued down that it is not going to go anywhere. Okay, I wanted my bottle cap to have a little bit more definition, even though the die does make some great embossed lines in it. I cut mine from a very light colored gray cardstock. It's actually almost white. And then I used a little bit of Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink just to hit those outside edges and then to lightly brush along the top where all of those little ridges are, just to give it a little bit extra dimension. I like to do that with a lot of my dies. I just think it really softens everything up. Okay, now it's time to put everything together. I've got my card base cut out. I used the large die in the set to cut that out. It's got a nice embossed line in the center so you know exactly where to fold it. I folded it in half, and now I need to line up my little pill bottle on that card base. So here I am actually using some of the adhesive tape just because it gives me an out if I don't get it in the right spot. I am a huge advocate of the undo remover stuff, and I have that on my desk at all times. So I'm going to line that up, making sure that I have a nice border that's been created by the card base. I'll get that adhered, and then I will place my pill bottle top on top, getting that very top piece kind of in the same spot so I have that nice border, and then I'll apply the ridges of that bottle cap to the card. That, I do believe, the bottle cap ridges, I do use some liquid glue on. And that pretty much does it for this card. For the inside, I did cut out another can shape using that die, and I just cut that in half and I adhered just a light colored cardstock on the inside. It gives the card just a little bit, or kind of beefs it up a little bit for that back panel. And it also gives you a nice area to stamp on another sentiment if you'd like, or just an area where you can handwrite a little note. Anyway, I am so pleased with this card. I think it turned out really cute. I like the idea of just having the pill bottle as a shape, not so much as a functioning pill bottle, which I will do another card that way. But this one I just really liked. I hadn't used the Wildflower stamp set yet, and I really like that stamp set, so I'm sure I'm going to be using it in other cards also. Anyway, give me a thumbs up if you like this video. You can follow me on Instagram at Sandy Cogdill or on my blog www.sandycogdilldesigns.com. Thank you for stopping by today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye now.